We're talking
Please.
about sales and production, and notoriously there's a gap there between the two. I want to start by just defining what that gap is and how it starts. So I don't know who wants to start, Mark or Chris, but how can we define that gap for our audience?
I
I think
pick,
that,
yeah,
go
Mark.
ahead,
No,
Chris.
sorry. One of the reasons I pick Mark is because his company actively has two active. He has sales. He does manufacturing and operations. I think there's a lot of people that understand operations that are not manufacturers, but Mark is. So no, Mark, I'd like you. I'd love to hear your
Yeah,
view of the
I think
gaps.
realistically, I would say, well, everybody knows the objective, and they might share that the goal is the same. Both production, I'm going to use support. That's what I kind of refer to my team as: support staff and sales staff, account executives, account managers, and then you have your support staff, which is your production people, your designers, your admin people, project managers. Now, in my case, fabrication segment of the company. The gap between those two things is that even though the objective and the goal is hopefully successfully communicated by leadership, by management, whatever, um, how we get to that, the roadmap to get to those objectives and that goal, are approached differently by both those sides of the company. So obviously, we know sales is dragging revenue through the door, dragging new opportunities through the door, and production's job is, support staff's job is to actually make it happen. And so I think the gap between those two is coming at the more or less the agenda that those two sides of the
Yeah.
company have in organizing that together and collaborating on producing it,
Yeah.
if you will.
They're chasing two different targets sometimes. How
Yeah.
can you
Okay.
align those targets though? Isn't there a way to incentivize sales to be mindful of production and production to be accommodating to sales so they can get the deal done?
Yeah, and
That's
I've
what the
shared this.
brochure says, Khalil.
Right, right. It's so easy to put on a mission statement or on
Sure.
on our values, but getting folks to actually buy into that and understand what that means to everybody and to
Mhm.
the various players, because you really have, I think you have to have a real high level of communication, collaboration, and
Yeah.
most importantly, trust. So when I use the word trust, I mean that the salespeople have to trust that the support staff and production people have, their goals in mind and want to service the goals, which is basically in the end delivering a great product or a great experience to a customer. So we all share that. We know everybody in the team shares that, but it's up to us as business leaders to kind of help communicate that and facilitate it. So I think getting everybody to read from the same piece of music, if you will, sometimes is tough because everybody has an agenda,
Mhm.
and everybody has some baggage. So I think that a salesperson wants the numbers. They've got a quota. They've got to fill the quota. Management's driving them to meet their sales plan for the month, and in order to do that, they need A, B, and C from their support staff. They need quotes. They need invoices. They need estimates. They need production, and they have to ask for that, and they have to facilitate that through the organization such that they're not you know causing a rift, if you will, between those two things, between sales and production.
Mm.
Not
Okay,
sure I answered that
No,
well, but
no,
for
you
sure.
did. So, two things are jumping to mind right now. I think we could agree that sales today, guys, has become much more of a customer service problem solving set of skills from
yep,
what it was maybe when we started, Mark, a few decades ago. I would also say when we came up, right, we were selling portable and modular exhibits, which tended to, they felt more commodity. They weren't commodity, they were customized, but um, it was an easier gig, right? It
yeah,
was, and the other thing I would ask, and I asked Mark this off camera today, but the challenge, Khalil, is we have an industry that typically has incentivized salespeople commission, right?
Mhm.
So what the model being, if you're a commission sales rep, are you really going to prioritize making the production team's life easier? You're trying to make some sales so you can get paid, right? You've got bills that you have to do. And when we were selling, 10 and 20-foot exhibits primarily, um, you literally could, you could get deals done in 3 or 4 weeks and they're done and delivered and out of your life. And
Yep.
you got paid. And the project, it's now a much more complicated process. Most of us are not selling commodity stuff. We really are behaving more like consultants. We're interested in customer success and helping them learn the right way to do it. That means, and understanding and advising on all the behind the scenes costs. It means not selling a product, it's selling a program. A program typically has a collection of services wrapped around it. And to Mark's point, support teams, right? You're bringing in more support. Production just doesn't mean manufacturing. It means, the non-traditional sales positions, and the lines just blur. Great
Yeah.
customer service. If I'm betting that Mark's the kind of company, the majority of his sales at Apogee come from existing established clients that are repeat and growing new opportunities within that customer base. That's typically
Yep.
not coming from stone cold biz dev hunters. That's coming from the relationships they've developed with account managers, project managers, the operations and logistics people they've gotten to know over the years. Um, Mark made a comment about his 2 biggest customers. Uh, when they're coming to the office, he goes, "Hey, Jenny's coming over today." And he doesn't say that, the huge brand name that is. Kathy's coming over today. That's the relationship his people have created with their biggest customers. They really are viewed, and I think that's what we all strive for, right? Can we be viewed as an extension of our customers' team? Because if you can
Right.
do that, right, you've created a relationship that's very difficult for a competitor or an alternative company to duplicate. Would you agree, Mark?
I would, and that speaks a little bit to Khalil's question about how to merge those, how to get those two facets of the company working together. Because as I shared earlier, if I walk down my hallway and mention a number of probably realistically 10 or 12 first name clients, probably 90% of everybody that works for me knows who that is. I don't need to say who the brand is. They know who the client is, and conversely, that client knows a half a dozen of my folks in my. It's not just my account manager, account executive, and that's where one of the great things about our team in particular, where they shine, is that they value that relationship both directions, with the relationship that the sales rep has forged with the client, but also has that sales rep has handed off that relationship to the support or production staff, and they feel included in that relationship. And I think that's where the two sides of that really come together very well, because they do work as a team very, very well that way. That's probably the one thing that I'm the most proud about, my staff, is that demeanor they have with the client relationship, and that does help bridge the gap.